sister doesn't care for cinnamon, and I
Mm,
like cinnamon when the baker needs cinnamon in my
yeah.
apples. So
Yeah.
we're gonna
Same.
talk mango. Okay, let's not talk about food. We'll get this started. All right, ready?
Yep.
All right, 1 minute. Every freaking time. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Tori, the founder of the Mighty Dames. We're back again for another roll call interview series. Today, I am joined by a very lovely host, co-host. I'll call you a co-host for today, who has been a part of the Dames for almost since the beginning, I want to say. So
Yeah.
please introduce yourself. Give them your name, where you train, where you're from, all of it.
Hi, I'm Alia Garcia-Valadez, and I train currently here. I'm living here in Angleton, Texas, right outside of Houston. So I train at Brazilian Top Team School of Jiu-Jitsu in Lake Jackson, and I've been here at this school for about 2 years. I think 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And but I've been training jiu-jitsu. I just celebrated at the end of last year, celebrated 4 years doing jujitsu.
Woo!
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Pretty steady. Had a couple moments where I had to pause a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to that, I did Muay Thai for a few years. I did some wrestling in there, and
Okay.
like
And
I
you're a blue belt, right?
am. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
a blue belt. About a year ago.
A
A
year
year ago.
ago?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm Sway from San Antonio.
Sway. Yes.
I'm Sway's first blue belt.
Oh, that just like warms my heart because I love
Yeah.
Sway. It's like,
Yes.
oh, that makes me
Love
so
her
happy.
too. My kids love her. I love her. She's also my former coach
Mm-hmm.
back in Corpus, the person who really helped me fall in love with jujitsu, but also he's my best friend, my brother from another mother.
Mm-hmm.
She's also his coach, and
Okay. Oh, so you had your family.
his dad's coach, and his brother trains, and yeah, so
It's
they're all
great. It's great that you have like this like through jujitsu you can create this community of people, and then you
oh
cannot
gosh,
even imagine like how did I not know you 5 years ago?
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, it's
you're.
crazy. It's crazy, and you spend so much time, right, with
Mm-hmm.
the people at the gym, especially if you, I mean, I can understand if I was like someone who only trained like 2 times a week,
Mm-hmm.
but from the get-go, I was in the gym 4, 5, 6, 7
Uh-huh.
days a week sometimes,
Uh-huh.
and you just get, and then I was like the oldest, so, and most of the time the only woman, so I turned
Mhm.
into gym. I always kind of fell into that gym mom, which I was totally cool with.
Yeah.
So it just, next thing you know, you've got a table full, what used to be just a table of me and my kids. Now I have
Mhm.
a table full of fighters, and
Aw,
that you're feeding, and your coaches, and stuff. So I love it. I love it though.
that's
It's
awesome. It's
Yeah.
crazy you say you became gym mom because like I became gym mom, but like not to the kids per se. The kids, like oh my God, I love the kids. I make some of the other people mad because like your kids like me better than you. But like to the 20 something year old, like
Yeah.
to all the men basically, because what I realized is, and I thought this was like I never really gave much credit to the idea that like women are more cautious than men because I have a lot of reckless female friends. So I didn't believe that until I started until I started jujitsu and I realized how absolutely ignorant these men can be sometimes with about their own safety,
Yeah.
well-being. I know it's not like they're reckless, but it's almost from a point where like they don't see it as reckless until I'm like, what are you
What are
doing?
you doing? Yeah.
Like, no, go sit down. And they're like, you can't
Yeah.
tell. Go sit down. And then we'll like look at my coach and they're like, can you believe him? And he's like, you should probably sit down. But
Yeah.
it's funny how like every gym has that one person who ends up becoming the gym mom. Like I don't have any
Yeah.
kids. I'm only 29, but like I'm over here like telling these like 16, 17-year-olds like, hey, just take it down, ease off the testosterone pedal just a little
Yeah.
bit.
See, and
Chill, bro.
I was the gym mom that the kids, we in Muay Thai, we had a kid, actually he just graduated. The the seniors this year, of course, didn't really get graduation,
Yeah.
but he graduated this year. His birthday was just a couple of days ago, and I was looking at old pictures, and I just, you know, he was just a kid, but he was so good that he was in the adult class, in the advanced class, and so I used to get out of school because one of my other teammates, who's like my additional child, I always call him my officially unofficial kiddos, and he lived with us for a little bit, and he was an amateur fighter, an MMA fighter, and so he would go pick him up from school, from high school, bring him to the gym, and we'd all be at the gym, you know, right after school all the way till 9-10 o'clock at night, and so made sure they ate, made sure they did their homework. And, you know, I saw pictures where he's like up against the ring, you know, with the dummy, leaning up against the drill dummy, and he's doing his homework. And his mom owns a restaurant. And so I would text her the picture and be like, hey, he's doing his homework, and then we're going to make him drill, and then he's got to spar, and then we'll have him home. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what else? This is like, it's not really jujitsu based, but it's another thing I was thinking about. Because you're in Texas, which is it's still Southern. Like, that's still very much Southern.
Yes,
it's Southern. So what I've noticed this a lot with, I've seen it in my family too, about like Southern minorities adopt kids that aren't their kids
by the boatload. My mom was the same way. My aunties are the same way. All my tias, like everybody. It happens. For me, it's food. It's always been food, because in our family, you know, when my dad barbecued, he barbecued for the whole family and the whole neighborhood. When
make sure everyone has something to eat. Nobody goes hungry.
My mom too. You know,
nobody goes hungry.
Yeah, we lived for a little bit. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment at one point, and it was just my sister, myself, and my mom. And, you know, my mom worked a lot of hours, but a long day, you know, for the cable company, and she would buy groceries, and then my friends would come over, and these are friends that had like nice houses, but they liked being at our place. And, you know, my mom just made sure everybody ate. And I think about it now, and then I think back to like my oldest son is 22, and then you know, I just think back to his friends when they would come over, and then to, you know, my daughters and their friends, and they're like, you're always just trying to feed everybody. And I'm like, I don't know any other way to be. And even when we struggled, and you know, I was single and didn't know where like groceries are going to come from the next time, still figured out, hey, if my kids eat, you eat. And that's kind of how it happened. We had a lot of college kids at my school and at the gym, and they'd be training, and I'd kind of see them like, and I'm like, what did you eat today? I'm just curious, what did you eat today? And ramen noodles. And I'm like, how can you be, you know, a high performance? Yeah, that's not gonna work. So yeah, started like meal prepping for them and stuff, and feeding them, and then it was like, just come live with us your last senior year.
Well, I will applaud you for that, because like I said, that's something that my mom even did. Like, my mom, we lived in a single mother household, me and my sisters, and my mom was a correction officer, so she worked like long hours.
Yeah.
And she lived where we lived, and where she worked was like an hour away. 45 minutes to an hour. She never, because she worked in Orlando, and she never wanted to live in Orlando. She wanted to stay in like a smaller town.
On the outskirts, yeah.
Yeah, but like, I think about it now, it's like when my sister was in middle school, my youngest sister, and we're all 4 years apart, she used to have like her little, her little friends. Yeah, got a drink. She'd have her little friends who were just like, they just didn't have a place to stay at the time, or they were in a bad situation. And like, they used to call my mom Mama Trudy. Like, they just be over our house random, like, oh, they're going to stay with us for a couple of weeks. And I'm sitting here like, well, where are they going to stay? Because they're not having my room.
They can't sleep in my bed.
So like, I'm not sharing a room with Tiara. I'm keeping my, but you know, that's a kid mentality.
Yeah.
But you know, when I look back at it now, it's like, we were by no means like living the high life. We were struggling family too. Like, we were living, we were paycheck to paycheck family. But even then, it's like this, I always say, I'm not saying that the Northerners don't have this, I'm sure, but I've just noticed in Southern families, and especially like Southern minority families, it's very much a community and making sure everyone's taken care of. So, I was just thinking about that when you said, as soon as you said that, and I see that now too with like gyms.
Yep.
it's almost like the young boys have become like that next elevation of that. Like when we move from like per other life to gym, I still have that mentality of like I'm still trying to like, did you eat anything? Do you need a snack? Or I bring
Yep.
snacks to my gym for like and like for certain kids. It's like you
Yeah.
eat this snack.
I
And like,
always have, I tell them all the time, I always have snacks
yep.
in my bag. For me, mainly for me, because I do sometimes forget to snack before training. But I know, and I've learned, but I usually have something in there for them to nibble on. And if it's not, the little kids who come to class right after school, and sometimes they carpool, like it's a parent who's carpooling and takes
Yeah.
a bunch of them. And I'll be like, I'll go grab a peanut bar out of my bag, or
Yeah.
something. If it's not them, then it's the older ones. And and if you don't turn into gym mom, right, you kind of turn into the big. I always tell them I'm the big sister you never wanted.
Yep. Well, that's important too because like a big part of jujitsu is the stuff that happens off the mat. In my
Yeah.
opinion, is like it's the community that comes around it. I always say that like you don't have to be a jujitsu practitioner to be vital to the sport. That's why
Right.
you talk about like soccer moms and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
very important because that little bar that you give them, that little pep talk that you give them is that motivation they need to continue on.
Yeah.
And I mean, if especially when we're talking about like a younger generation, because for me, I didn't really start taking care of my mental or physical health until like the last couple years. So
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff I was just ignoring, thinking, oh, it'll be fine, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. And I would
Yeah.
burn out and crash. And it wasn't until someone else told me, like, hey girl, you
Yeah.
need to reevaluate your systems. Like you can't keep working
Yeah.
70
Burning the
hours a
candle at
week.
both ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I am now, not me 5, 6
Mhm.
years ago, but me now, I I still get into that same thing where I wasn't really I've always been in like a go, 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 go. Even with work, when I was
Mhm.
working in like a corporate job, it was 15 to 20 hour days was not a big deal. Being on call, constantly, and having your cell phone and your laptop, and you be on vacation
Yeah.
and still have your cell phone and laptop.
Yeah.
And it's like, gosh, so much stuff that I missed out on family wise,
Mhm.
just by dedicating myself to that. I wouldn't take it back, but it's kind of one of those, like, I should have slowed down just a
Slow
little
it down.
bit.
Yeah.
And I still tried to take that into into training. And
Yeah.
I literally burned myself at both ends into a stroke. And
Jesus.
so yeah, so
Yeah,
I
I had
mean,
questions about that too because you had that well, let me go back to the firstly. So,
yeah, yeah,
says you were in Muay Thai, right? First,
yeah,
correct? So,
yeah.
how did you branch that bridge from I'm doing Muay Thai, which spoiler, I think is absolutely insane. I
I love it. I
can't
love it.
vibe can't vibe with Muay Thai on any level. I do it every now and then because it's a great workout, but ever since we started having wrestling classes, done with Muay Thai. You're entitled to your opinion though. But how did you switch from Muay Thai to Jiu-Jitsu?
So it was a forced change. I'll be honest. It was a forced change. It was a compromise between my neurologist, my cardiologist, pretty much my team of doctors, my family, my
Mm-hmm.
kids, because at that point, I had had a stroke. I had like a mini stroke, but
Mm-hmm.
they
Still a
call it a
stroke.
TIA. Yes,
Yeah.
I know. I'm like,
we
oh,
don't
small stroke.
we
I
I
told
hate
them
when
I had a
people
small stroke,
say
and the
stuff like
nurses would
that.
tell me, yeah, the ICU nurses would be like, "Hun, you had a stroke. Like,
Nope. That's
just
like
get it out of here."
I had a small stroke, a little heart attack, a touch of pneumonia. You had a heart
Yeah,
attack, you had a pneumonia, you had a stroke.
yeah,
Let's keep it
yeah.
as is.
I still get like, yeah. So I had that first one, and I had already been training at that point, and I was, the not the healthiest I'd been in my life, but in 15 years, I had already dropped over 100 pounds. In 15 years, I went from being huge to working out to training,
Being
and
more active.
yeah, way more active. And I was, I grew up playing basketball and running around, always being out, playing and stuff. So it wasn't until I got older and you have kids, your metabolism changes. And then you tend to put your kids first. So, and that happens. I mean, it happens. And then when I put myself first and I started training Muay Thai about a year and some change into it is when I was overloaded with stress and my blood pressure was ridiculous. And I wasn't, I'm the type of person that I hate taking aspirin. You know, I hate it. I hate
Yeah.
it, hate it. So they pretty much said after that first one, look, you've got to slow down and figure it out. And I had physical therapy for a little bit after that first one to regain use on my left side, because I would always lose my left side, my left arm, my face, you know, all that. And I took for granted that I probably should have pushed pause on a lot of stuff, but I don't. I'm like balls out, you know,
Yep.
go big, go home.
Yeah.
So
Like, what is this pause you speak of?
yeah. And so I just jumped right back in, and I thought I was doing really, really good, and I was. It just less than a year later, I had another one, and the second one was it was caught early. My mom actually happened at my mom's, and my daughters were the ones who right away, the ICU nurses from the first time taught them how to be fast, how to recognize and what
Yeah.
to do whenever someone's having a stroke. And
Which, can you share what be fast means?
oh gosh,
Do you remember?
so I remember the balance. I remember your oh gosh, your eyes. I always remember them telling me, "Mom, smile," for me to lift my arms to see if one of them was drooping, for me to stick my tongue out, you know, to see if your tongue kind of shifts to one side.
Okay. But it's
And
like a check.
then
It's like a check system to see
it's
if that's
like
what
a
you're going through.
yeah, it's a checklist. Oh gosh, and it's escaping me right now. It's so terrible.
Sorry, I put you.
No, I'm sorry. And so yeah, and so they recognize it right away. And my mom kind of went into a panic mode, and my daughters right away just called 911 and were like, yeah. And so that's how it kind of started. That second one was the after effects, the residual effects were way worse than the first one. It took me 18 months of physical therapy, you know, to be able to flip a light switch, to be able to open a water bottle, and to really be able to go back to normal function, you know, to be able to throw a jab like just on the heavy bag. That was huge. To be able to tie my belt again, you know, reach for that collar grip that, you know, so all of that tied into, I want to go back. I want to go back to train. I want to go back. And the doctors being like, you can't do this. Like, you can't do this anymore. Like, this is not.
Nah,
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah. And after the first one was when I started jujitsu. So, because it was on my bucket list. So by the second one, I had already been into jujitsu and into catch wrestling and stuff. And I was still doing Muay Thai, but I was noticing when I was sparring, you know, I get my bell rung a little bit, not a lot, but just a little bit. And it'd be like, whew, got a headache and, you know, that, but it's that blood pressure. And so by the second one, they were just like, no. And I tend to do really well with PT people who are like, you know, just strict.
Yes.
Because I fight a lot and I argue a lot.
You be like a strong-headed jerk who won't hold you accountable.
Yeah, totally.
Oh no, you can say asshole. You're like, no.
Yeah, totally. I do
trainer.
really well with either male or female that just put the hammer down and don't take no shit. You know, they just like, you're gonna do this, and if you don't do this, then you don't get to train. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And then and the same thing with my doctors. I like to compromise a lot. Like, you got to do this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about this. Like, yeah. And I went into that. And then finally I ended up with the neurologist and the cardiologist who were just like, no. Yeah. And then talking with my family because, yeah, they were just like, that's a no. And I was taking blood thinners. So to help combat the clots. So then it went from no to, well, you don't understand. I mean, me telling them like, y'all don't understand. I need to train. Like, I need to mentally, physically, I need to train. Like, at that point in my life, I needed it to be able to stay sane. And so the compromise was, you drop kickboxing and you can't get hit in the head. You can't take any more. Like okay, you wear shin guards, right? So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
ever check a kick with a shin guard and you
Mm-hmm.
still end up with like an
Yup.
Easter egg because you check it just right?
Yup.
Yeah. And so that's a blood clot for me. And
Mm-hmm.
so that turns into,
Okay.
if I don't, yeah, it can turn into a clot that travels to my brain that can, cause me to, even a small one, to cause me to stroke out and stuff. So I got to be real careful. So that was
No
a
Muay
couple
Thai.
times. No Muay Thai, no Muay Thai. I can hit the heavy bag. I
Yeah.
can kick pads. But at that time, I didn't, I kind of felt like it wasn't fair to my
Yeah.
partners that I get to do all the work and they don't really, not that, because let's be honest, holding pads and, for someone who kicks is a skill in and of itself.
It is
Um,
terrifying.
I love it. I love it. If you were to ask me whether I, prefer throwing or holding, I
Yeah.
actually I love holding pads.
Agreed.
It's just, I don't know. I don't know I love holding pads, but I also know that the time at the heavy bag for me was when I needed to, release stress
Mm-hmm.
and for like drills, round robins and stuff like that,
Yeah.
at work days. So then to turn around and take away me being able to, join class and spar and just,
I
spar just a
get
little
you.
bit and
I
lightly, and
got you.
it broke my heart. And that's why I always say, Muay Thai has my heart, but jiu-jitsu's got a tight choke on my soul.
Mm-hmm.
So so
That's.
I love it. I still watch it. I watch Glory kickboxing all the time. I watch old school
I don't think I've ever
Ertz.
actually. I don't think I've ever watched a kickboxing fight.
uh, okay, so you
I
got
don't
to
think
look up
Ramon
Ramon
Deckers.
Deckers. My old
Writing it
kickboxing
down.
coach. My old kickboxing coach was a student of Maurice Smith, from
Okay.
Hall of Famer, UFC Hall of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Famer, amazing kickboxing champion. And so he was a direct result of Maurice,
Mm-hmm.
and trained in Seattle, and then came down and had a school there in Corpus Christi. And so we learned Dutch style kickboxing,
Yeah.
and I grew up with old school boxers. My dad was really
Mm-hmm.
into like old school boxers, Hagler, Hearns, Roberto Duran, Chavez. Like I grew up watching that stuff,
Yeah. I mean,
but
you're
I
in
didn't know a
Texas
darn thing
too,
about.
so.
Yeah, and I didn't know a thing about kickboxing other
Mhm.
than Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
That's all I knew. And I hadn't even seen a lot of those movies until I got to
Uh-huh.
the gym, and they were like, "What's wrong with you? You need to watch." And I just was like, "This is the stupidest movie I've ever seen in my life," but it's funny. But yeah, that's kind of how it all tied in and it all tied together. So I had to kind of give it up, and the push towards jujitsu, because that was all I had,
Mm-hmm.
kind of came in, and it came at a time when I needed it. I had already stopped doing wrestling, because that was really rough too.
Wrestling can be a freaking
Yeah,
worst.
yeah, and ours was catch wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I've seen other wrestling. Don't get me wrong, but catch wrestling is like, whew, it's like the wrist locks of wrestling. Like, it's mean, but I love it. I love it, but it's just one of those things that it was rough. It was rough on the
Yeah.
body, and it was around the time when I was rehabbing, and I'd go watch mostly and just pay attention. And then when jiu-jitsu picked back up and I was able to train full blown again, I
Mm-hmm.
was able to take some of that stuff into my jiu-jitsu. So yeah, so ever since then it's been jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you kind of brought that up because a thing about jujitsu is like I feel like sometimes people low key get a complex about jujitsu because they're like anyone can do jujitsu, you can do this or this, and while that's absolutely true, but it's like I feel like with jujitsu more than any other combat sports, it's truly more adaptable
Mm-hmm.
because you have since we have like a ranking system and like a tier system almost.
Yeah.
And because it's so adaptable, if you can't do certain moves or you can't do certain things, there's a whole other avenue in which you
Oh
can
yeah.
go. If
Oh yeah.
you're a Muay Thai fighter and something's wrong with your right leg and you can't kick from your right leg, you're losing a whole element. I
Yeah.
don't know Muay Thai, but I'm saying it's you see it a lot when you have people who have various amputations,
Yeah.
various motor
Joey
motor.
Bozic. Joey
Yeah,
Bozic,
see.
prime example. I saw him compete at the very first Naga I ever went to go watch
Hmm.
my teammates. I wasn't competing, but I was watching my teammates, and I wasn't even thinking about competing back then.
Hmm.
And I saw this guy come out onto the mats, crawl out onto the mats. And, for those who don't know, Joey Bozic is I think a double leg and one arm
Hmm.
amputee. And so I saw him compete, and I was just like, oh, man, if he can do it, I
Oh,
can do it.
like
Like,
you're like, oh shit, he
yeah,
can
yeah,
do this.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he is amazing,
Hmm.
amazing, and super motivational, but also just the fact that and this was before I saw like people my age doing jujitsu. This
Hmm.
is like really early, like I said, really, really early on.
Hmm.
And he was the very first tournament. I was just like, who is this person? And then I went to go look him up, and it just so happened that I saw someone that I followed share there's a Mission 22, I think, or we
Yeah.
defied. No, we defied. I
We
think it's we
defy.
defied.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so shared something from them, and he was on there, and I was like, hey, that's that
Like, I
guy. Yeah, and then Sway had hosted him at her gym.
know
Sway
you.
and Sod hosted him at their gym for one or two times, and so that just kind of, you know how you start following and kind of start
Yep.
spider webbing,
Yep.
networking and
Yep.
stuff like that. But
It's
yeah, that was the first one. I was like, God, I can do this. Like, and I was coming back from even after that and saw him again compete, and I was coming back from rehab and PT, and it was like, I was struggling to grip.
hmm. Hmm.
and I'm like, I could do this. Like, I can
Yeah.
do there was no, it was no question of can I. It was just plain, you're going to keep working at it. So
Yep.
yeah, it is truly it is truly. And the same thing with like heavier, right?
Yeah.
I
Heavier and older and like
Yes.
oh like when I go, and that's really what I like about our group is like I go on there and I see if I'm over here complaining. Again, like I try not to do the whole like no one has the right to complain because everyone's journey is everyone's journey, everyone's battle is their
Yeah.
battle. But it is something when like I'm over here like bent over, panting all heavy and hard, and I
Yeah,
look
like
down to me and I
doing
see
that
like
wheezy.
yeah, and I see this 64-year-old dude just like I gotta
Yes.
knock this kid, and you're like, oh shit, he about to go rack it up over there. But it's also like okay, so and I was like, they're a blue belt and I'm a blue belt. Like clearly, like they started or they're on their journey. They didn't just they didn't say, oh, I'm too old or oh, I'm too
Yeah.
heavy or whatever. They're still doing it. So
Yeah.
that's one thing I just like absolutely love about the sport is like there's so many places for you to fit in.
Yeah.
So
And
that
even if
is
you don't, like, even let's say like you kind of feel like you could, I mean, I know in the beginning I thought I was the only, before I found the Mighty Dames, I thought I was the only like heavy girl out there. I had
oh, you
never
feel like a
seen,
unicorn.
yeah, yeah, I had never seen like Tayani or,
Hmm.
or anybody. I mean, nobody. I had never seen, definitely didn't see Claudia or any of them. So it
Yeah.
was like, gosh, is it just me? I felt that I was a bull in a china shop. And then on top of that, you're going through your weight loss process, which that's not really what the goal was. It just
Yeah.
kind of the byproduct. And I'm tall, I'm
Yeah.
already tall. So
How
even
tall are you?
I'm so I'm 5'9" on a good day now.
Okay.
Now I am, but I used to be a little bit. You know how you get heavy and kind of,
Yeah, you kind of slunk a little bit.
yeah. And now I feel really short because my kids are so darn tall. Like, I come up to my
Mm,
son's armpits, and then my 15-year-old is way past me, and my 20-year-old is a little bit taller than me, just a smidge taller than me. So I used to think I was really, 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 really tall, and not
uh-huh.
anymore. Not anymore. Not with
Well,
kids nowadays.
by like if we go like American average, you're tall.
I'm tall. Yeah.
There you go. See,
Yeah.
I'm 6'1".
Yeah. So you're
I'm
tall.
6'1", and I constantly wear buns that
Yes.
like are like I wear like
Yes.
a 3 to 4 inch bun. So like
Yes.
when I'm there, it's like hello.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have
I always
entered
would
the
have, and I used to wear heels, like for work. I used to wear
Oh,
like 3-4 inch heels.
oh, so
So
you were tipping that
yeah,
6'3".
yeah. And I always had a pineapple bun. If my hair
Uh-huh.
wasn't, down for work, it was in like a slick bun. And so I've always had either heels or cowboy boots. When I was a kid, it was cowboy boots and basketball shoes. But as a girl, an adult, I was always in heels. And my coworkers used to like joke and call me Cruella DeVille because it's like clack 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 clack. They could hear me coming down the hallway and stuff. So yeah, you will find your place. Like even before that, I used to think I was the only tall girl and I was
Mhm.
the only big girl. And and I'd go to tournaments and I'd see the heavyweight division for women, and
A damn joke.
it's 185 pounders. And not that there's anything wrong with that. It's
Yeah.
just like, man, this is like these girls are not that big. Like, and I would think I'm a monster compared to them. Like I'm so
Oh
big.
yeah. The first time I saw like you sign up and they show you like, oh, it's by weight class. Okay, cool, by weight class. And then you look at what they call heavyweight, you're like,
Yes.
oh,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
oh. And I go to my coach, I was like, so this is and up. Like, yeah, yeah. I think the first one it was like it might be like a
65.
165.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there thinking like,
Yep.
I look at my coach like, I got more than that. I
Yep.
got a lot more than that. Like I'm looking around like, are people really that small? Are women that small? Like
Yeah.
one,
And I didn't even think, I thought they were all going to be like tall and slim
yeah.
because that's
Oh.
what I correlated, like they were going to be tall, and like athletic. And then one of my matches, I ended up with a girl who's like 5'2", 5'3",
Yep. Just
and
short and stocky.
heavier. And I was like,
What the hell is
oh
this?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I entered my very first tournament as a blue belt. Rob, who's Sway student, he's a brown belt now, and this is when I called my brother from another mother, and he used to be my coach. He was there. He was here in Houston, and he had come from San Antonio, and I saw my opponent, and I was like, she's really small. I was like, she's really little.
Yes.
And he was like, he's looking at me because we were going to start, and then they kind of said, no, let these guys go first, and then you guys will go, because of course heavyweights always go at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and especially the
Oh.
female
No.
heavyweights, you go at the end of the day
Blue
at 4
belt,
o'clock in the
blue
afternoon.
belt heavyweight women. You're either the
4
very
p.m.
first
Yeah.
or you're dead last.
Yeah. I've always been dead last. Pretty much at the
There's
very
no.
end. Yeah. And then absolute, to wait for absolute or open
Oh
class
my
is like even
God.
longer. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, we go to the edge of the mats, and I'm just like, because again, at this point, I had competed I had a couple of matches in like Naga, but most of the time when I'd sign up, I ended up with nobody. I wouldn't have anybody in my division. So this was my first one as blue belt with opponents. There were 3 of us in the division.
Yeah.
Woo! I was like, yay!
Wait a minute. When you get 3 people in the video, you're like, oh, it's going down.
Yeah, I was so excited. I was
You
so
get so
excited.
excited.
Yeah, and my very first match was with which we're friends now. That's the funny part, is we're friends now with Rachel. And I look at Rob, and I'm just like, she's really small. I was like, and he was like, he mumbles to me, he was like, her weight's not your problem. And I was just like, man, she's a heavyweight. She's like really, and just kind of, and I still get real nervous before tournaments.
Same.
And he literally, which looking back, it probably didn't look so great to other people, because I know my teammates, this was the first time my teammates up here had met him. So he like gave me a good little smack and was like, her weight's not your effing problem. And I was just like,
get it
okay,
pull it together, woman.
Yeah, I was just like, okay. So just, yeah, I had not, in my head, I still had not processed that there are people in heavyweights that span all types of body types, right? And because I get a lot of like, they're like, what did you weigh in at? And I'm like, 315, and they're just like, well, from where? From where? And I mean, that's
well, see, that's how I did when I would do my because I've definitely picked up weight as I continued through jiu-jitsu. I'm working now on chipping it back down, because this quarantine life, I've been showing my ass. So my older sister just texted me, said, did you go on your walk today? Like, no, I have not. I'm doing that after this. But what I would notice is I was when I got into the sport, I think I went through like a really bad breakup. I lost a lot of weight. So I was at my smallest I'd been since high school. So I was somewhere around like 230. And 230 on me is like, that's like I was looking weird. Like I was looking real weird. But I slowly picked up. And I remember I go to one tournament and at this point I'm super heavyweight. I've done a couple of them. And and once I don't know how it is for Texas because Texas is bigger than ours. You have like more opens, but once you get around here, you kind of know who's in your division. Some new people pop up from time to time. Like, oh, okay, cool.
When they get promoted or
but you have at the very least, you know what school they're. You kind of know people.
Yeah.
So we were all like in line and like you could tell it was a new person was at a IBJJF and they're like, oh, it's like super heavy. I was like, all right, get on the scale. All of us turned our head like, for what? Like, no, well, we want to just see what you come in at. And we're all looking and like,
I've never, as super heavy with IBJJ, actually with pretty much any of them, honestly. Grappling games, grappling Grand Prix, IBJJ, none of, Naga, I think maybe one or two times.
Naga have you do it because most times you're by yourself and they'll like write your weight down and they'll go and ask someone else like, hey, this is what they came in as, which is, I mean, one of the reasons I don't do Naga. I have no problem with my weight, but like I don't like that will I, won't I?
Well, at least they did it for you because every single one of mine pretty much I've had to do it. Like I was the one networking and going around and telling people like, it was kind of embarrassing because I'd see someone who was like heavier and I'd be like, hey, so are you competing today? Like, I see you're in clothes, like, do you happen to be competing today? So it
look
just
like, hello, fellow big girl.
Yes, pretty much.
Today.
Same thing. It was the same thing. I would have to go and hunt people down and, please catch it. And then when they would try to help me, it was, look, she's this much, this is her weight class. I was a white belt and begging blue belts, begging purple belts just to let me join. And I got a lot of like,
nah,
like, no,
like, no, I'm good.
Big. And it got to a point where, sometimes they give you your money back or they give you a credit to the next one. And I'm like, well, what's the same? This one's in San Antonio and this is a pretty big town. And it's even bigger. Like, who's to say that I'm going to have another, another chance or another group of people or, it got to the point where not that I got tired of it. It all like the dominoes fell perfectly because Masters was getting ready to come up. Competed in that one, my first blue belt one. I competed at that one, and I was like, "Whew, okay." One felt really good, and I thought that I'm gonna compete in the big one. And then I had a couple of people tell me, "You just need to go to IBJJF."
Yep,
we'll find. And I'm like, "No, I'm still gonna end up with, with people who are not super heavy and I thought that ultra when I didn't know a lot about IBJJF, so I thought ultra heavy was a division like the guys, and then found out that it's open. So I'd be thrown in with super heavies, and then I had watched on Flow Grappling a couple of the super heavy, and I thought, gosh, these women are kind of small. Like not that small means you're
no,
and it's just
like in reference to yourself, they're kind of small, which is
and at the time my opponents were mostly men. They weigh less than me, but they're like 6'3", 6'1".
It's I think there's been like ongoing pushes to get another division on there, which I completely understand from the fairness standpoint. I selfishly like, oh man, I'm not gonna get anybody, but like I get it. I get the need. I think before we do that, we're gonna have to have more super heavies show up for super heavy, then decide to go up, which I think is happening. I think more women are competing a little bit.
Masters this last year, 10 of us.
Yes, I'm so bummed because I was gonna do Masters this year. Like because I'll turn 30 in June, so I'm technically a master now.
Yeah.
But like with everything that's going on, I'm basically using all of my vacation time now so that I keep money coming in. And then it's like, who's trying to travel in August? I'm not traveling. So
if we're even
allowed, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I will say,
we're partially.
yeah. I will say if you have some free time and you want to just drive yourself crazy about places you can't go, just go to Google Flights and pick a random destination and see. Because like at one point I could have got a there and back ticket to Vegas for like $50.
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, oh, don't let me go to Vegas.
When all this first started going on, I looked at tickets to Vegas and I was like, man, I should book them now. Like I will do the registration later. I should book it now. And then all this other stuff happened. I was like, oh,
never mind.
Yeah. And then I had some concert tickets that Ticketmaster changed wording and stuff. So thankfully I still got the refund, but it just even concert tickets, like something as simple for a concert that was midsummer.
Yep.
And nope, wasn't gonna happen.
I literally just redid my IBJJF registration. I want to say like 2 weeks before everything got shut down, because it would have been this weekend. We had a tournament in Orlando that I was training for. I was really excited to do it because that would have been my first one at Purple Belt.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, well, that's gone. So because in actuality, thanks to COVID, who knows when we're going to have the next tournament, because by nature, they attract huge crowds.
Yeah.
So
even by the Houston Open, this last March 9th, 10th, 11th, it was the 9th, I think. Yeah. The 8th or the 9th. So that last one on Sunday, the Houston Open, they had already, we hadn't even been shut down or anything, but they had already started adjusting to where, if you weren't competing or a coach, you couldn't be down by the mats. Everybody else just had to be up
in the bleachers.
Hands in the bleachers. Yeah. The only people down on the mats were like competitors and coaches. So that had already kind of started a little bit. And then that next week is when
it was done.
Yeah.
I am curious to see how we're gonna get back into competing. I like to compete. I would say because I really like shiny things. I like to win. I love winning stuff. It's I still am. I'm like an obsessive student. Like I like school. I like to learn. I like to like do I like to do my training and then accomplish a task. So to me,
I learned what I learned and I can
yes, I like exactly. I went to school, like getting my diploma felt better than maybe just like being done with my last class. Like it felt good, but like when you have that small piece of validation, like it's like a check, like did it. I love that feeling of just marking that check. So that's kind of how I view tournaments, and as an assessment of myself too. So it's kind of a bummer that in all actuality, I probably won't compete this year. It's just unless it's like a one-off super fight kind of situation, because the way my anxiety is set up, I don't know if I really want to be in a large group like that. We don't know how this COVID thing's going to come, if it's going to come in waves, because once we open back up, it's going to spread some again. So we're kind of playing it by ear, which it makes me nervous for some of the smaller gyms, some of the smaller tournaments and stuff like that, and small MMA promotions. We're kind of at the point now, we're just hoping everyone's still around when we can come out.
I understand, folks who like suspend or pause their monthly dues, but I'm kind of one of those of the opinion, like I need a place to come back to.
Yeah.
So I just urge people to continue to support your gym, but I absolutely understand that.
Yeah, if possible.
If possible.
The other thing is a lot of gyms are like, how that is their income, they understand. Like, I think that's the good thing about, most of us don't go to a huge gym. We're not training at the ATTs or the AKs. We're at a small local gym. So the money that they're getting directly from us is going to it impacts them so much more, so much quicker. They're like, each month they need to collect a certain amount. So on the other hand, is because it's a little bit more personable, it's a little smaller. Like, you can go to some places and you never meet your boss, but like in small gyms, your coach, you know them intimately, like you see them all the time. So a lot of gyms I've seen are like, they're making adjustments, partial payments if you can, do this if you can. I'm the same way, where I got furloughed. I'm lucky to have some savings, like, where I'm okay. So it's like, okay, I know I can afford to do at least 2 months at my gym. So I'm going to do that. And hopefully by June, we have a different situation. But for everyone, I say, just please, 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 at least talk to your gym owner. Don't leave them in the dark.
Yeah.
Like, because how you were questioning, like, how you're going to get your next paycheck, when you're going to go, if the unemployment's going to go through, they're wondering the same thing. So at the very least, I don't feel like anyone's going to be a complete asshole about it. At the very least, you owe someone a conversation, like, hey, I don't have it, or hey, I can pay this much of it right now, but I have bills and kids and stuff like that as well. So for the most part, I think that the jiu-jitsu people, because we're such a close-knit community, we've been trying to do what we can to support each other, come on, jiu-jitsu, like, y'all got some issues. I'm not gonna pretend like jiu-jitsu's all roses. But it has moments like this where you're seeing people come together, which I'm grateful to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always, always think of now where I am now compared to where I was a few years ago. Medical bills, and I was going through a divorce. I had got laid off from the corporate job, and then the stroke and everything, and then one of my kids got sick not too shortly after that, or shortly after
God
that.
was testing you.
Oh, let me tell you, it was. It was, there were some years there in Corpus that it was rough. It was rough. And I even thought about it now because I'd seen this post about, don't let your kids and yourself go to bed hungry. Private message me. I don't have a whole lot, but part of the move coming up here for me was to be closer to my mom and to my sister and my brother-in-law, and the rest of my family lives here too in the same county. And then my kids, all of us being together under one roof instead of kind of spread out and stuff. And my girls go to college here, so I now am in a much better place compared to just a few years ago when I was a single mom struggling to find a job that wasn't a corporate job, but to find a job that would allow me to train, to have that time to train, but also allow me to,
survive,
pace, kind of move at my own pace, and because I couldn't work like I used to work. So to be able to do that, it was a struggle, and there were times where I wouldn't eat so that I could make sure my kids could eat, but I didn't know where we were going to get groceries next. And I was super fortunate. Like I said, the gym family becomes like your additional family. And I was super, super fortunate to be able to have some of them step in. And what was funny is it was my work family, but also my previous work family, but also the gym family. And they would cook, barbecue, and be like, hey, Alia, here, take these to your kids, or, after I had fed all these people for so long, and here they were.
You know what?
Stubborn to ask for help, to ask my family for help.
You know what? It's whatever your belief system, I'm a firm believer that the universe has a way of balancing things out, whether it comes through you or someone else in your life. I'm a firm believer that's why if you see me, I'm rarely not smiling. I feel like I I push out positivity because I know how easy it is to go to that dark place. And I know how personally my own head, I know my own head has been there.
Yeah.
So,
it's easy, right? Like it's so easy to get there and just puddle and just, you know, like so much more comfortable to be here and miserable or just like me and but I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit here and be miserable myself. Fuck that. Like not for, you know, very you know, you speak it into your own, and it may not happen in your time, but it's going to happen in somebody's time. And,
absolutely.
And you out there. And also too, I'm a firm believer. I don't believe in a whole lot of stuff, but I'm a firm believer in karma. And the shit you put out in the universe is what
you reap what you sow.
Right. And it's absolutely true. And I you know, we wouldn't have survived those years. I think about it now, like I said, we were in Corpus, away from family, you know, cut off from pretty much all the in-laws that we had. It just, we would not have survived. We would not have survived.
The power of family.
Yeah.
See, that's what, and I said, I like, I tell people all the time, it's like, you don't have to do the biggest of grand gestures. You don't have to go say, I'm gonna pay your rent for 5. You don't have to do that big, like, hey, I cooked some chicken. I know how much you guys like. I'm gonna bring a plate over for everyone.
Yeah.
And like that little thing of that gesture, kind of when we were talking back previously about like giving someone that granola bar or whatever, that one little act of kindness can just like make like that person like mentally and like emotionally can be like exactly what they needed at that moment.
Yeah.
So everyone, do your good deed of the day. Do your good deed of the day.
It's so true, because I've been on the receiving end and have been fortunate enough to be on the giving end. You know, and it's so real. It is so real, so real, and you don't even realize it sometimes that it's happening in that moment, because you're just going about your business. But then you realize, you know, later, like, oh, you know, my kids will be talking, or my family will be talking about something, or a Facebook memory will pop up. And I'll just like,
damn Facebook memories.
Like that was struggle bus city.
Yeah. I was just cleaning out my, I'm not gonna lie and say I was cleaning out my car. I was looking through my car, putting some stuff in the trash, but I had hit, it was probably like a week ago. I just, you know, especially during this, I don't do well with idle time. I fill a lot of my time, and I always used to joke like, oh, I'm more productive when I'm busy. I am truly more productive than I'm busy. When I've had more free time. It's like summer vacation, but you can't go anywhere. And I've done nothing this whole time. And I was cleaning out my car. I was feeling kind of bad, and I dug in and I found this little this mustard seed.
Yes.
So like I posted a picture of it. So like, you know, if for those of you who don't know, mustard seeds have a lot of Christian. It's popular in the Christian. It's taught like the faith of mustard seed. You know, basically like all you need is this little thing to spark greatness. And I'm not like a super, you know, Christian person, but I was brought up in the church. And this vial was given to me by a woman who visited my work like back in September, like a while ago. She was a family member of a coworker that passed away. And we love her. She's awesome. She'd come by and visit, and we were doing health screenings that day, and she was giving these out to people. So I took a couple of them. I took one for my sister. I took one for my volunteer who was really close to this particular person who she just happened not to be in that day. And I just kind of threw it in my console and didn't even think about it. And then when I pulled it out the other day, again, I haven't seen this in months, I was like, you know what? Okay, let's get this shit started again. But again, like that woman's small little act of kind, like just passing these little things out that, you know, 9 times out of 10, you pick up stuff all the time, you forget it. You know, you get little knickknacks and stuff from whatever. But do I still have it over here? I put it like right on my desk.
Somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Who knows? Oh, yep, I do have it. Where's my mustard seed? And that's why I actually put it on my desk for when I was feeling bad. So here, it's my little vial, my little mustard seed. But something as simple as that has been like a little little grain of hope or a little something to keep me from dwelling in the negativity and the isolation that we are in now.